Well, that was quick. What else is there to add, really? Concord shutting down 14 days after launch. This has got to be some sort of record. Surely this must be a first in video game history, right? A live service game launching and then dying in 2 weeks. I mean, granted, this was a particularly vast economic failure with very few equivalents in video game history, save E.T. and Superman 64, I suppose, and yet, in this day and age, in our Rings of Power and Suicide Squad times, I guess we all kind of expected that Sony would just kind of keep doubling down on failure, hoping that somehow a beautiful butterfly would rise from the ashes of this particular mound of broken dreams and feces, and yet instead they are doing the intelligent thing, the smart thing. They are looking down to the caca-covered carcass and saying, "No more! You will not bleed us for months as we try to desperately fix what cannot be fixed," as even if we assumed in some absurd hypothetical universe that they could turn Concord into a good game after this disastrous launch, its PR damage, the harm done to its brand, for lack of a better word, is already so overwhelming that there's no rescuing this. And so Sony is simply going to cauterize the wound and write it off as a loss. I mean, this cost like $200 million or something, 8 or 9 years of development time, presuming the studio has at least some talent within its ranks, or assuming Sony simply burns the entire god-awful thing to the ground and hires new people, well, that's like 9-8 years of free development that they can simply write off on their taxes. There are worse fates, particularly after such an earth-shattering cataclysm. So let's have a look at the official announcement here. Concord fans, we've been listening closely to your feedback since the launch of Concord on PlayStation 5 and PC, and want to thank everyone who has joined the journey aboard the North Star. Your support and passionate community that has grown around the game has meant the world to us. I imagine it probably did. After the cascade of negative feedback, I imagine the 5 or so people that actually went, "Don't worry about it, your game's not the worst thing I've ever played," they must have held a position near and dear to the developers' hearts, I do imagine. However, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we've also recognized that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we'd intended. That's kind of like saying a blue whale leaping on top of and sinking a luxury yacht was not quite sticking the landing that the owner of aforementioned yacht had fully envisioned when he pulled up his telephone and thinking to himself, "This will be an Instagram moment." But details. A little bit of PR marketing speak to lessen the blow to the 5 people that were actually playing. Therefore, at this time, we have decided to take the game offline beginning September 6, 2024, and explore options including those that will better reach our players. While we determine the best path ahead, Concord sales will cease immediately, and we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who purchase the game for PS5 or PC. If you purchase the game for PlayStation 5 from the PC PlayStation Store or PlayStation Direct, a refund will be issued back to your original payment method, and this too is key. Not only is Sony going to stop the bleeding, they are also, quite crucially, going to regain a great deal of public trust with this. Particularly after the Helldivers 2 debacle, they really do need a PR win, and this is a pretty good one, honestly. People weren't even really asking for refunds en masse, at least as far as I'd been able to see, and now they're simply offering them up. If they're already writing off the entire development as a loss, then, well, the 20,000 odd extra sales, less than $1 million? Considering the crate that is already $200 million deep, 1 or 2 more or less is really not going to make a difference, but the PR gain is significant. Sony comes out of this, well, smelling like roses, frankly. And sure, there has been a little bit of an angry backlash here and there. I feel for Concord, even though it's not my type of game. I hate to see games fail. It's not good for anyone. Anyone cheering the downfall, you're not welcome in the gaming community. I have news for you, Kurt. It turns out you're the one not welcome. See, we tried this whole like, oh, if you have nothing good to say, don't say it. It didn't really work out, as it turned out that a lot of people would take advantage of that stance to, well, fuck us down the throat, in essence, and it got unpleasant awfully quickly, and so now we have reversed our statement on that. As it turns out, positive feedback is meaning diddly dick. Creative Assembly has never changed their business strategy or adjusted their DLC policy because people went like, oh, thank you, but could you please not, be quite so rough with us? No, only when the stick came out and started beating them repeatedly did they change. This is the entirety of the gaming industry. The stick, and only the stick is our means of communication because it is the only one that has proven even remotely reliable. Simple as. Sony's decision to terminate Concord is bigoted and sets a bad precedent. Not only are people's jobs at stake, I half think this might be a joke, but coincidentally, 100% of games featuring black trans women have committed suicide. There's nothing to celebrate. Again, I don't know about that. I half think this has got to be a joke. People celebrating Concord failing should be ashamed of themselves. Games should be celebrated shame. If it wasn't free to play across all platforms, at least it would have had a fighting chance. Possibly, I can't disagree with it. If it had actually been 100% free, it would at least have had an opportunity. If you're blaming Concord's failure on female minority characters and models being woke, please, for the love of God, go outside. I refuse. But this entire narrative as well, that, the thing that caused Concord to fail was the $40 price tag, is idiotic. It is absurd. We are living in the era of $70 video game with season passes, with microtransactions, with DLC, okay? We are living in an era where video games have never before been more expensive and offered less on release and more after you've already entered your credit card number. The idea that a $40 video game might somehow be a complete deal breaker is ridiculous in this day and age, utterly and completely absurd. And anyone making that defense is only making it because they don't really want to see this reason, because it's the more obvious one, really. Now, they did mention in the post here that they were thinking about something, whilst we determine the best path ahead. So they took the game offline and stopped sales and they're offering refunds. Now, to me, that sounds like they're probably going to shelve the entire product. But I do believe Paradox did the same after Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2's development team completely collapsed, and they are now going ahead with that. In the wrong direction, as always, but hey, what can you do in this backward worlds of ours? So there is at least the conceivable possibility that Concord might rise as the Phoenix reborn, and hey, you know what, it's not impossible. Sonic, for example, actually demonstrates a way back for companies that appears to be on the verge of absolute financial floppery. Sonic gave us an absolutely terrible character design, the internet applied the stick. The company, instead of going, you talentless hacks, we would never listen to you, we know best, instead looked at the paying customer and thought, okay, if that's what you want, we'll give it to you. I mean, we can only actually become a financial success if we give that to you, so here, redesign Sonic. And now it's on its third goddamn movie. Or No Man's Sky. There is a highly theoretical, but there is still a possibility of Concord being relaunched. I mean, hey, they could even make a, what was that, Snowbreak, was it? There was a free-to-play, anime.jpg gathering simulator game a little while ago that had a dreadful launch, but then went all in on fan service in order to attract back the audience that they had previously failed to appeal to. I would be shocked and surprised if Concord went that way, but it would probably work. I imagine indeed that it might be an effective marketing strategy. If Concord re-emerged in 6 months with a wholly redesigned roster of characters, all of which are sexy, conventionally attractive sexy, with some nice animations a la what they're giving us from Zenless Zone Zero at the moment, for example, I imagine, in fact I'm virtually certain, that a lot of the people who are writing the game right now, for looking awful, would get on board with that simply as a way to demonstrating to Sony and other video games developers that if you just actually give us the product we want, we are all on board with it. So, there is a redemption arc here. It's a long shot. Oh god, is it a long shot? It's probably akin to lifting the Golden Gate Bridge with your erection level long shot, but still, the theoretical possibility exists. Just like the knocking noises aboard the stuck little spaceport right now, it's probably not a space monster, but this might be humanity's first interaction with chaos, and if nothing else, that would certainly liven up the news cycle. Something to consider. Until next time, I have been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening, and I do hope to see you all again soon. And, Concord, long may it live. We'll see about that. Have a good day.